This conference will now be recorded.
So yesterday we discussed about some of the basics. So why the LWC, the new framework when compared to RR? The main reason is due to the modern web stack to take the advantage of the browser native features to make the framework internally whatever use it to run the component very thin. Okay, so this LWC component framework will be useful. So that's why Salesforce they came up with the LWC framework. And the main thing here we need to understand some terminology. Okay, so about maybe the modules. Okay, so first of all, the latest ES6 class, how we define so class name and how we maintain the constructor. So how we define the methods. So just we should have some basic understanding. And also mainly we use import and we allow some of the properties to export. How that will work at high level, if you have idea, I think that will be useful. Okay, so now I think already we discussed all these things. So let's focus on the technical part, how we did. In general, to create the Lightning Web component, we use Visual Studio Code, and from here we create the Lightning Web component. Yesterday, already we created one of the Lightning Web component. So let's add some logic and see how exactly we are going to use this. Okay, so mainly as part of the bundle, you see 3 files auto generated by the system. HTML for the UI, the main thing is the JS file, and the meta XML. We'll see what is the purpose of each and every file. Beyond these 3 files, based on the need, we can also create the CSS file, and also we can create the SVG file if required. So all we need to do, right click and the new file, give the same name as the component, and end with the proper extension. If it is CSS, we have to end with the CSS, select that. Okay, so now let's write some logic and see. So what I'm going to do, I'm keeping some text on the UI, right? So let's say this is the first LWC component. So just I added some text. As a developer, mostly whenever we develop, first we want to see how it is showing on the UI, and based on that we add some logic and parallelly do the testing and proceed. Now as a developer, since we added this one, so where exactly we can see the preview for this one? Okay, so there are a few ways how we can see it. So one of the way, without deploying this, right? So at present, this component, whatever I have created, it is there in my local system. It is there in my laptop, in my hard drive, in one of the folder. Only when you deploy, that time this will be deployed to the Salesforce organization. Without even deploying to Salesforce, we can see the preview, we can compile, and we can understand what is the result it is giving. That is possible. So for that, Salesforce, they are offering local development server. Okay, so if you want to know about the local development server, so here I have one link. So I have some short video about the installation, how we can install. Anyway, there in the description, you can also see some points, the steps, how we can install the local development server. So if you are interested to maybe install the local development server and use it, okay, so I just recommend you to look into this and follow the steps. So just I'm copying few steps. Okay, so I have copied the steps present below to that video. So these are the steps we need to follow to install the local development server. First of all, we should have the latest Salesforce CLI installed in our VS Code. To check that, so click on View, open the terminal. Okay, in the terminal, all we need to do, use one of the command SFDX update. Okay, all we need to execute SFDX update and enter, so that it will be updated with the latest Salesforce CLI. Okay, the first step, so execute SFDX update. It will be updated with the latest Salesforce CLI. Later, so all we need to do, execute this command. Yeah, I'm not going to update. Already I have updated version. Already I have installed also. For you, if it is not installed, all you need to do, you need to execute this command, so that local development server, it will be installed. So once it is installed, because in my system already it is installed, to open that, all we need to do, press F1, search for local development server, click on local development server. So that it will start, and directly, without deploying whatever we are developing, we can run through local development server and understand what is the result. Okay, so I think it is taking few seconds time. So once it starts, we'll see the result of this one. Okay, so this is one of the way, without deploying to Salesforce, how we can see the preview. So there are other ways. For other ways, we have to deploy this to Salesforce, and we have to see the preview. I'll also show those things. So you should know all the possibilities, and wherever you are comfortable, you can make use of that and you can see the results. Okay. So now here it is open. Okay. So let's say there are two components basically. So I think for testing purpose, I created one component. This is what we created. So open that one. If you see, this is the first LWC component. Right. So here, whatever I'm adding, that result you can immediately see here. Okay, maybe for some time we use this one and understand how it is working, and I'll also show you the other ways of seeing the result. Okay, so now let's focus on adding some logic. Now this is just a message. So basically, so I want to add some UI. Okay, if you want to add some UI, we have some shortcuts to generate the snippet of LWC. For the shortcut, all we need to do, type so LWC. Okay, so here it is not generating. So I think for that we should have. Okay, so one of the plugin. Okay, so if you left side click on extensions, search for LWC. Okay, so there are some extensions available. Okay, so LWC coder, I think this extension. So maybe see the reviews, and whichever is better, you can make use of that. So I think LWC coder is so one of the extension which is good. Okay, so I'm going to maybe use that. Okay, this one. Okay, I think there is only one review in LWC code made. There are 2 reviews. So anyway, so already I'm using this, and let's install. Because when we start, I think practically to save some time as a developer, we make use of these kind of extensions. Okay, so now, so what we do, so it is installed. Now I'm going to open this UI file, HTML, this UI file, and now LWC. Let's search for just LWC dot. So I know maybe if you have some basic idea of the components, it's very easy for us to generate, right? I want card. So we see here, card is generated. But how we get some idea? To get some idea, so all we should know about some of the websites we have to bookmark. So always, so there are 2 websites which we need to bookmark. So one is Lightning Component Library. So one of the website there, you see many standard components available. Okay, so maybe I'll say bookmarks. So for sure we need to bookmark this website. So in this website, all the standard Lightning web components you can see. Most of the situations, first we look into the standard web components, Lightning web components. If something is suitable for our requirement, we use that one. Beyond these standard components, if something we need to develop, so we add our custom logic and develop. Okay, so it's like that. So if you see whatever I generated is card, right? So how card looks, maybe without that, maybe you cannot judge. So whether we need to use card or maybe, right? So something else. So I recommend you to play with this, open all these components and see what is the UI. Okay, when we say card, how exactly it is going to show. If you have some idea, one time if you see going forward, you can easily generate. Now if you see, this is the card, how it looks. If you want something like this, and also there are different types of cards. Card with narrow variant, and also there are other different types, right? So basically, to generate these things in the extension, whatever I have installed, there are some shortcuts. If you see more or less, if you see this one, the previous one, whatever we saw, same kind of snippet here it generated. Okay, so just look into this website, and if you see more or less, you see same thing generated here. Okay, that is one thing, and one more website for the styles. To apply the styles, frequently we refer lightningdesignsystem.com. So these 2 websites, most of the times whenever we do the development, we have to maybe open, and frequently we refer those websites. Okay, so just understand these kind of things. Now let's go back and focus on our component. Just I have generated a card. So really I don't want this snippet, whatever is inside. Just I want card and the title. So I'll say the title for now I'm giving as contact info. So that's the title that I'm saving. So whenever we save, if you go back to this browser, if you see this local development server, this will be automatically refreshed. It will refresh automatically, and we can see the result, how that is looking. Okay. So inside this lightning card, so all I want to do, okay, so maybe, so here, so I'm going to keep some message and see how it looks. Let's say I want to maybe show some person first name and last name. Okay, so I'll say, so first name, so let's say I'm giving some name, and the last name, so I'm giving some, okay, save. Okay, so now after saving, so how it looks, so it's automatically, as soon as we save this local development server, this will be refreshed and you will see the result, right? We are seeing like this. So first name, so we are seeing maybe last name, so like this. Okay, so maybe most of the times when we deal with the UI, you know, when you deal with Visual Force, we use space block section, so like that. So here we have layout item. Okay, I'll say LWC. I know about layout, how it works. So layout is like a page block in Visual Force. Okay, so inside the layout, multiple layout items, right? So to organize the content in different sections, and also if you take a section, left side some content, right side one content. So if you want to organize in such a way, this will be useful. Okay, so I have generated that. So I think it's better to move this one to inside that so that it looks better, right? So here I'm just keeping and saving, right? So maybe I want to use two div tags and see how it looks. Yeah, I'm just giving. So just we need to play with these things. Okay, so I'm just little bit adjusting the alignment. I'm just giving. Now if we see after saving how it looks, it is just refreshing. Okay, we are seeing maybe first name Kim and the last name Bole. So it's looking fine. Okay. Again, there are different ways. Okay, let's say if you are not satisfied with this, so what we can do? So go here and play with this, and here you will for sure see some of the styles. Okay, so let's say I know that there is one kind of style called tile. Right? Let's click on tile and see how it looks and understand whether we can use that. Okay, so it's all just we need to play with this and see which is suitable, and we'll try to make use of that one. Okay. So I think it is taking some time. So it looks like this. Maybe I don't want that. Again, go to layout here, layout how it looks here. Let's see. Simple layout. So just some time we are spending on UI, how it looks. So now here, I think if you see this kind of style, showing like this is little good. Okay, so all they are using like this. Almost the same thing we are using. So only the thing is we are keeping this text directly. So what I do here, this first name, I'm going to keep here. Okay, and also this scheme, this one I am keeping here, so that how you are seeing here, similar to that we see. Right? So similar to that we see. Okay, just further. I'm just keeping, and also when we see this, so the styles. So if you see the styles are starting with SLDS, so that means that is a Salesforce standard style. Okay, for example, Here class, and here field title, and also class header column. Here whatever you are seeing, these are not SLDS styles, right? SLDS means Salesforce Lightning Design System. So this one. So these are not those styles. Okay, if you see in this example, those are defined in a custom way, right? So, but we also somehow referring those styles. If you want to exactly see the look and feel what we see here, we need to copy these styles, right? This is one style class and this is one style class. So I want this. Okay, so copy. So what we can do, if already that file is not there, right click new and give the same name of the bundle.css. Already yesterday we created. Yeah, I'm just keeping that styles here. That way we get that look and feel. Okay, so now I think we are good here. And this I don't want to keep here. I'm taking one more layout item for the alignment purpose. And here I say last name. And just saving and see how it looks. We need to spend some time and do the practice so that next time you can repeat the same thing. Now I think it is looking better, right? So now, so what I want to show you. So this first name Kim and Bole is the last name. I want to read this from the JS file. Right here, I want to define the variables and refer. Okay, in ES6 class, right? This is the class, modern way of writing the JavaScript. So here, whatever the variables we define, we call those as properties. Okay, so if you want to refer, if you want to define any variable, we just give the name and define. Let's say first name. That's it. Okay. So here we should not use where, let, constant, those kind of things. We should not use. Okay. So don't use where or let or constant. We should not use. Okay. So what will happen? So inside this class, there is a keyword called this. Okay. So this is like a, when we create the instance for this class, in that class, it will create like one object, JavaScript object, and in that first name and all these properties will be added. Okay, so make sure the common thing people mention that as constant and let when we start newly. So just avoid that. Just you need to give some name. That's it. Okay, now if you want to assign some default value, so you can give some default value, right? So let's say I'm giving so this name. Okay, so in the same way, I also want to define one more property. So last name. Okay, we can also maybe give that. So last name. So like that. I'm also giving this. Now what I want to show you, when you have this, sorry, here I need to take equal to. So when we have the properties added into this class, how we refer from the UI. Okay, so to refer the JavaScript properties, right, the variables, we use directive, right? Directive means dynamically to refer. Okay, so this is the first name. Directive we give like this, right? Here we refer any JavaScript property, whatever you want to refer. Okay, so this one technically people call as directive. Okay, so make sure that you are not giving exclamatory symbol, those kind of things. Okay, inside that. So which JavaScript property you want to refer? I want first name. Okay, we can refer. Right. In the same way, I want to refer last name. Okay, here I'm adding say last name, save, and see how it looks. Save and go back. And if you see here, it's just refreshing every time whenever we save. So it will refresh and show the latest information. Now I think we are seeing the latest information. Now by default, so whatever the properties we define, these properties we call as private properties. Okay. So first of all, this first name and the last name, these two are just I'm adding a comment. Right. So these are the primitive, right? So this first name is a primitive type. This is a primitive type. So the string, the number, so boolean, all those types we call as primitive. Okay, in JavaScript, non-primitive means the object, right? So there are some JavaScript objects, right? So we represent object like this. So object will be having name and value pair, right? So if you refer this is a JavaScript object. We consider this one as non-primitive, right? So this fall under non-primitive type, right? Array. So whatever the array we define, arrays also we consider as non-primitives. Just to show you, these are the non-primitive types. Okay, just I'm commenting just to show you. I'm typing here, but in general, primitive means it can be string, the number, boolean. All those are the primitive types. Okay, so now this first name and the last name here, whatever you are seeing, these things we call as private. By default, all the properties are private. We call this as private reactive property, right? So the below two things. So these two things, what we call private reactive properties. Private means only these are accessible within this component. Maybe going forward, when we relate the components in other component, while referring this one, accessing these properties not possible. Right? These are private. So, but what is the meaning of reactive? Okay, to understand that, the meaning of the reactive is, in case if there is a change in this first name, that will be automatically rewritten and display the latest information on the UI. So that behavior, maybe to practically show you. So what I want to do on the UI. So I'm going to add maybe so one more layout, right? One more layout I'm going to add. So for that, just giving some break. So we say LWC dot layout, right? Generates a snippet. Now here I want to add one input. Okay, so to add input, right? So what I'm going to do here, just I think this alignment will adjust later. So here I want input. So for that, just type LWC dot input. So we have a code snippet, just embed. Okay, so but we want the input of type text. Right? For text, we have this value. In case of type, just give text. Name just internally to make uniqueness. So here, this name I'm giving as first name. The label I'm giving as first name. If you see, if you install this extension, our job is easy. Otherwise, we need to again refer documentation, and we have to spend a lot of time. Okay, so here I'm adding one text box. In the same way, I'm also adding one more, and here I'll say last name. Here also I'll say last name. Save. Okay. So now let's see how it looks on the UI. Just I think it is refreshing. Okay, so what I want to show now, I think it is looking like this. I think it is looking fine. Okay, so now, so what I want, whatever the already value present in this properties, I want to associate to this input. So for that, we have value, one of the attribute to this value, right? So make sure that we are not giving inside the double quotes. The common mistake we know like this when we use ARA or Visual Force. In LWC, make sure that you are not using any double quotes, you are not using exclamatory symbol. Here, we have the dynamic property, right? Our property name is first name. In the same way, I'm associating so last name for this. Okay, just to save it. And if you go back and see, we'll see this first name and the last name loaded with. So this name, first name, Miguel, the last name pre-populated. Okay, so now, so what I'm trying to say, from here, if I modify this name, right? So what will happen? We think that since we are associating this input with this value, if you make change, that will be automatically changed in this property. That is wrong. So it won't happen when you deal with the LWC. Maybe in ARA and the Visual Force, that works like that. But in LWC, so when you have an input and you associated that input with one of the value, the property in the value, when you make any change on the UI, system cannot automatically bind that value into this property. We have to write our logic to set that changed value into this property. Okay, so just understand that. So for that, I'm going to define one of the method. So first time we are defining a method. So the syntax, so we already discussed yesterday how it looks. Just the name of the method. Let's say I'm giving the method name as assign value. This is the name of the method I'm taking. Okay. So now the thing is, when I change the first name, we can call one function, one method. When we change the last name, we can call one more different method. That is possible. But I don't want to write multiple methods for each and every input. So let's say there are 10 inputs, 10 methods. If you write, it's very difficult to manage. Okay. So now for these two inputs, whatever we have on the UI, for both, I'm going to call the same method. Right. Let's say here in this input box, on change is one of the JavaScript event. On change. So I'm calling, right, to call any property, right? Property can be a variable or method. This is the way. And the same thing, I'm also calling the same method from this input also. Now, when you call like that, right, I can change here or I can change here. For both, the same method is called. How we know that? In which element we changed the value, either in the first name or last name, how system knows. So to detect that, so we have the browser events, right? On change, on click, on mouse over, for all those browser events to capture, okay, while calling this method, that event information will be supplied as one parameter. This name can be anything. right? People give event or E or whatever you can give. Okay, so this will be holding on which element you are on changing the value, right? Our event is on change. So on which event you are changing, that element information will be captured into this event. Okay. So now all we do from this event, say event, right? What is the target? So when some event fires, there is a propagation. Maybe straightforward to understand. When you click on this and when you make modification, this is the target for the event. Okay. So when you click here and if you make modification, this is the target for the event, right? So I want that element. What is the target on which they are doing that event? Okay, so we say target. When you say like this input element information will be captured. The entire element information will be captured. So from that element, so when we have an element in JavaScript, if you want to have the attribute of that element, okay, so now let's say here if you modify, this entire thing will be there. From this, all I want is this name, right? So if you want that, let's say dot name, right? So like that. So this I want to store into one of the variable. So I'm defining a constant, and let's say I'll say field name. So what is the field? The field name, it is there here. So into this I'm storing. Okay, now if you modify here, this for this input box, the corresponding name, right? So name is one of the attribute, dot name, right? Maybe if you want label, here we have to say dot label, whatever the attribute you want, that one. So for us, we get first name. If you modify here, we get last name, right? Now here I'm taking one condition. If, right, if the field name is equal to, right, the field name is equal to first name. Here in JavaScript, we use triple equal to, right? So the difference is double equal to means it won't check for the data type. Triple equal to means it will also check for the data type and compare. Maybe quickly if you want to understand. So if you are in the browser, right, any page, it might be any page you open some page in the browser, I recommend you to so click on console just to show you, and just to show you 10 is equal to 10. Okay, if you see, it is returning both are true, right? The result whatever we are getting is true, right? So maybe both are true, but there is a change in the data type, right? This 10 is in number. Anything if you keep in single quote or double quote, that is a string. Yeah. So if you use triple equal to, so what it will do, along with the value, it will also make sure that the data type also same, right? If that is not matching, here data type is not matching, it is returning false, right? So that's what mostly in JavaScript you see using triple equal. Okay. So now if it is the first name, so what exactly we want? We want the value, right? What is the value? And whenever we make any change, that will be stored into the value attribute. We need value, right? So to get that, event dot target dot value. This value I want to assign to this class property first name, and also here make sure to use this keyword to refer any property which we defined inside the class. That is must. If you forget, you will see some problems. Okay, so here this dot first name into that first name property. So whatever the value after changing is there, that value we are assigning. Okay, that's the meaning of this. Don't forget to, so maybe this is initial phase. Maybe once you get some experience, always we know that we need to use this keyword to access class properties. Yeah, I'm just keeping that. In the same way, else if, right, so if the field name is equal to last name, the field name is equal to last name, so what we are going to do, this dot last name, into that we are going to assign event dot target dot, so whatever the value entered, right, here on the UI, whatever value we enter, that one after changing we are assigning. So that's it. This is the way we have to write our own logic. When you have input, when you change, that is not automatically binded. We have to write logic like this and make sure that that value we are assigning to the target property what we are referring. Okay, so now, so this private reactive property behavior, whenever there is a change in this property, this changed value will be automatically refreshed and display on the UI. So that we call as reactive. Okay, so now, so what we are going to do here to test it. So now these are the some of the properties. This field is connected to the properties. Now here, if I make some change, right? If you see automatically on top, this one, as soon as the property is changed, so due to this, actually our logic, this will be executed, and you will see whenever there is a change, you are seeing that updated value here, right? I think I gave something wrong on the UI here. So I think while referring on top, so here I supposed to give the last name, right? So last name here I give something wrong. This is supposed to be last name. Okay, so that is some typo. So now it is working. So that is the private reactive property. Now I'll give one example. Private non-reactive property. So when we say private non-reactive property, I'll show you. Okay, for now, if you see this is working. Now what I'll do. So go back to that JS. Now I'm going to comment this, right? These are primitive types. I'm just commenting. In VS Code, to comment shortcut is Control/. Okay, so those are commented. Now instead of this, I'm going to take non-primitive type. I'm going to take one object, right? So maybe I'll say person. One of the object is like this, right? So we give the object like this. So here within the object we give the property name and the property value, name and value pairs. And so here I'm giving first name colon, and just here we are hard coding, let's say this name, and also the same way last name. So here I'm giving this name. Okay, now this is the object which is non-primitive type, right? By default, the non-primitive types are not reactive. We say private non-reactive property. So this one, whatever here you are saying, this is private non-reactive property. Non-reactive means even though there is a change in this value, this value won't be automatically refreshed and display on the browser. Okay, that's what non-reactive meaning. Okay, let's see. So now I think instead of referring this, we have to refer through this, right? So what I'll do here on the UI, wherever we are referring the first name, I'm going to refer with this person, right? So here I'll say person dot first name. Right here also I'll say person dot first last name. In the same way, here also we are referring person dot first name and the person dot so last name. I'm just referring. And also whenever there is a change, we are calling this assign value function. So here also, if you want to change, so the latest value we have to change in this dot person dot in the person we have the first name. Into that we have to assign. In the same way here, person dot last name. Okay. So now we are pointing to this non-primitive type. Now let's see what is the behavior, right? So let's see the behavior here. Now what will happen? Maybe to prove that there is a change in this value, obviously this will be changed. To show that, I'm just printing in the console, right? So console.log. So I'm printing this person. Maybe to make it more easy, right? Let's say first name, and also maybe I'm also printing the last name. So can say comma and give, so that both will be printed side by side. Okay, so this should be the last name. Okay, now let's go back. So right click and inspect. Here, just click on console. Just I want to show you. You see, I'm changing, right? In logs, if you see in logs, it is changing, right? As per what I am changing, it is changing. But if you see here, it's not changed, right? Even though there is a change in the property, it cannot be changed automatically on the UI. So that behavior we call as private non-reactive property. Okay. Now to make that reactive, right? To make non-reactive property to reactive, use track decorator. If you remember yesterday we discussed a decorator. Decorator is like a annotation in Apex, like @future, @is_test. Here, instead of annotation, we use the terminology decorator. Okay, so how we define that? So before this person, I'm making this one as track. Decorators will start with @. And also, whenever we use any decorator, that should be imported from the LWC module. Here, we have to say comma, and we have to import the track, the decorator. Okay. Now this becomes right. Now this becomes reactive. So just save it and see. Now if you see here, you will be seeing changing that value right here. It is immediately reflecting whatever I am changing. Okay, so that's about this. Okay, so how we deal with the private non-reactive property. Okay, and now since already we are discussing about this decorator, right? We have many famous decorators what we use, and grade track is one of the decorator. So we have one more concept called public reactive property. So by default all public properties are reactive. Okay, so we say, when we say the property, the variable as public, there is a decorator called @track. So when we use @track decorator, so that one we say that is a public reactive property. Okay, for you to show @API, I'm just saying title, right? Title. If you want, you can give the default value. In older versions, for the @API property, assigning default value is not possible. But in the latest version, it is possible. Right? If you want, you can give some default value. So that is fine. Right? So, but since we are using, we have to import. We have to import @API. Then we can use, and this one we call as public reactive property. Okay, and note, in previous versions it was not possible to assign the value in the same component where it is defined. Okay, where it is defined, but now it is possible. Somehow already many developers, if they don't read the latest documentation, they are still in the impression that it is not possible to change, right? But we should know that. Okay, so now, so this one, let's say, right, so I want to maybe to make it some difference, just a con info I'm giving. Now this one I'm referring here, right? Title to refer like this, right? Title is the property name. Right now we have to see that as con info on the UI. So the public property meaning, if this component is added to some other component, from that component we can supply the values to this property. Okay? It allows the inputs from other components. It allows the value to this property from the other component. That's the meaning of public. Okay, so now if you see con info, you are seeing that is working. So now, so far we are working in the local development server. Okay, let's say this is not installed, and what is the other way? You need to deploy this to Salesforce. Already my project is connected to the Salesforce app. While deploying, one of the primary point we need to understand, don't try to click on a separate file and deploy. Never do that. Okay, so always whenever you want to deploy, right click on that entire folder, right? Highlight the entire folder and deploy. Don't try to deploy separate files. You'll see some problems. Okay, right click on that entire component and deploy. So far it is in my local system only, right? So now only it is deployed. Okay, once it is deployed, so where we see this component, there is no way to see from the developer console, right? So in official way to see, one of the way is, so you need to go to Lightning components, From here we can see. So technically, the ARA components, we also call ARA components as lightning components. So ARA components, LWC components, both stores in the same table. Okay. So if you see here, contact info type is LWC. There are many other components. Those are ARA. Technically, both ARA components and LWC stores in the same table. Okay. So only the difference is with the type. Here we can see, but code is not possible. There is no way to see the code. Okay. But already yesterday I showed you, if you have the advanced code searcher, so one of the component, right? Salesforce advanced code searcher. Now if you see here, whatever we deployed, so it came here. If you want, if you are not comfortable with the VS Code, directly from here you can create, and maybe you can open here and modify and work. Okay, that is possible. Okay, so just understand that. So now here we can see the code, but how to see the preview? Okay, one of the easiest way, if you know maybe already ARA, okay, for you can easily identify. So if you don't know, it's fine. I will just show you. So let's say here already I have a test app. Maybe if you don't have new lightning application, this is like a ARA application. Okay, so here we can add and see the preview. Okay, so now whatever we deployed inside ARA, referring the LWC component is possible. The reverse is not possible. Inside LWC component referring ARA is not possible. Now this is ARA application. Inside this referring our component is possible. When you refer inside ARA, the way to refer is in a regular way. C:, what is our component name? Contact info, right? Just give that. So now click on preview. But if you are referring inside the LWC, already I told you yesterday, right? We need to refer like this. Wherever capital is there, we have to keep hyphen, and we should have the starting and ending. But this style won't work here in ARA, right? In ARA, for sure, we have to refer in a regular way like this. Okay. So anyway, now if you see, let's see the preview. Click on preview. See how it looks. Right, like this you are seeing. So now also here also it is working fine, right? Now one more thing. So since we made, right, let's say try to give first name, maybe it won't allow. Okay? These are private. So but this is a public. Public means from here like an attribute I can supply the value, right? So here you can supply, let's say, contact record. I'm supplying that this value as contact record while referring that component. Now if you see here, you are saying contact record. So that's the purpose of the @API, the public property. Okay. So just understand. And also, if you don't want to add to this ARA and take the headache, so mostly people try to add on the home page and see the preview. Maybe let me show you that. So for that, it's not the setup home page. So home page of one of the application. Let me open the sales application or any application, whatever you want. So just most of the developers, they simply add the component onto home page and work and see the result. And now let's say on home page, I want to add this contact info, this component. To add, click on this gear icon and click on edit page. It opens the app builder, right? The thing is, by default, our component won't display. If you see, our component contact info is not there. In LWC, if you want to decide where exactly you want to show your component, we deal with this meta XML file, right? So here, to show in the app builder, for sure, the first key point you need to understand is exposure should be true. Okay, so only if you use is exposure true, it's possible to show in the app builder. Along with that, we also give the target. Right? You want to show this on the home page, or record page, or app page, or do you want to use this one as a tab or quick action? To decide those things, so we have targets. Okay, so we have targets. Inside the targets, so we have to give the target. If you see, all these are the possible values that I want to for now show in the home page. Right? Home. If without this, it's not possible. Now I'm saying it should be displayed in the app builder and it should be available for the home page. For now, we are not making it available for the record page. Right? So it's like that. So now let's deploy. Right? Since I made this change, so make sure to first save in the local system and now right click and deploy the entire component. Now let's go back and refresh. Okay, now left side, if you see, we have the contact info. Right, this is our LWC component. For now, I'm adding that here. Okay, so save it and go back. Okay, so now, so what I want to show you, it is showing right now when we add this component. Again, click on edit page, go to app builder. If you remember, when we add ARA component, right side we allow some of the inputs to configure. Okay, so in ARA bundle we have an option to show right side inputs to configure. Here in LWC also we have that, right? Properties, to allow properties to configure. I want to configure this title whatever they want. If administrator adding this component here, administrator can decide what is the title for this component. To make that possible, so here in this XML file, we use target configs. Okay, inside that, so we use a target config. So here the target. So I want this one to show in the home page. Right. So now here inside this, we also give the property. Right. So what is the, so this should be the one of the public property what we define. Right. So title and the data type, that will be a string. If you want any default value, you can give. I think we also have label. So label, I'm giving as card title. The label for this field, it should show as card title. So this will be shown here as a configurable property if you add. Okay. So now right click and deploy. So deployed. Now just refresh. So when you choose this component, right side, right, this one, contact con info, right? So let's say I want a contact mini card. So we decide the name here, right? We are providing flexibility to decide the name here. So that is those are the things which we control here. Maybe we have few more things. So I think in this, due to the time, we are not able to cover all the things. Still, we need to discuss about wire property and all those kind of things. Okay, in our next session on Monday, we'll discuss about those things. So for now, I think with this we are done with our demo sessions. So some of you, if you are joining newly and if you are interested, I'll drop one email. So if you are interested, you have to pay the fee so that you will get the updated link and you can join. So before ending today, any questions, anyone?
Just to confirm, Srinu, like are we not covering aura along with this LWC?
No, already RI is done for this batch. Okay.
Okay.
This batch, whatever I am dealing, already I completed explaining aura for them. Now I am teaching LWC. If you join now, for this batch, it is only LWC. Maybe aura will start as a next batch.
Okay. When can we expect the next batch? Like
after this.
Okay.
This takes 1 month after this.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And just in case, like, can we go through any videos before that to refer a couple of them? Is there any chance like that?
Videos, is the demo videos.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
yeah, any other questions before ending today? Okay. So, okay, we'll continue on Monday. Thank you.